A question I sometimes see on my YouTube channel, or comment I should say, is why would you buy a phone for $1,000+ instead of just buying a DSLR like a used one or a mirrorless camera? Well, the people that ask that question fundamentally misunderstand mobile filmmaking and mobile video, at least in the way I see it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Almost Professional. I am Blake Calhoun, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about this idea of buying a traditional camera versus buying a smartphone when it comes to a monetary perspective. I routinely talk about the quality differences, the good and the bad, but as far as money goes, haven't really touched on that. But it's really a pretty simple answer, and that is, one doesn't have anything to do with the other. The whole point is, you already have a phone. You already have this device. So you're not going out and spending $1,000 on a camera. You've already got the phone. I have an iPhone XS Max and an iPhone 8 Plus. And yeah, they're pretty pricey devices for sure. I think the iPhone XS Max was like $1,200. It's a 256 gigabyte phone. And so I have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K, and it's the same price. But I don't already have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. I already have the phone, and it just so happens it shoots darn good video. So whenever you hear someone say, why don't you just get a DSLR instead? It's like, can I make phone calls on my DSLR? No. You already have the phone, so it makes sense to use that in whatever capacity you want to use that in. In my own personal work, the number one way I use my phone for shooting video is probably travel stuff and quick B-roll shots. I don't tend to do full productions on my phone, even though I am, all in on iPhone filmmaking, smartphone filmmaking. I have the luxury of owning all kinds of cameras. And so I do routinely shoot B-roll, and I'll shoot entire productions that are geared towards travel or smaller, maybe corporate kind of projects. But since I already own other cameras, I do find working with traditional cameras in certain scenarios better, of course. And then I also find working with smartphones better, in particular, again, for travel or B-roll, especially using gimbals. While my other cameras, you can fly on a gimbal, they're just not nearly as easy or convenient. And I literally know no one, and I mean no one, and I'm sure there are some people out there, but no one went out and bought an iPhone just to shoot video with. That really wouldn't make a lot of sense, because you could go buy a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or whatever. I mean, you can get a used Canon 70D or something, I don't know, for like, what, $500? I don't even know. The prices are very low on starter kits that can shoot amazing video, that can shoot great stuff. But that really isn't the point. The point to mobile filmmaking is you already have the phone in your pocket, and it's so portable you can carry it anywhere. That also goes for mobile journalism. I'm not a mobile journalist, but that is a big market in mobile filmmaking, mobile video, and they make a living using their phone, creating stories with their smartphone. I follow a bunch of the BBC guys on Twitter. While they use both traditional and smartphone cameras in their work, a lot of those guys are mobile only. And so in that respect, they are using their phone as their primary recording device, probably for video and for audio. And so those guys might buy a device just for the video aspects of it. But most people, I run a YouTube channel called The iPhoneographers, and I use my real phone that I use as my daily phone in my show. I don't have phones that I just buy specifically for the show. Now, I keep my older phones, like I have an iPhone 6S, and I mentioned I have an iPhone 8 Plus, so I keep those devices around. And in just a little over a week from today, Apple will be announcing the iPhone 11, and I am probably buying that. I don't need a new phone by any stretch. My iPhone XS Max has been great, and I haven't seen so far anything that they're going to announce that would really make me want to buy a new phone. The multiple lenses is interesting, the super wide built in, but unless they really update the camera, I probably wouldn't do it. However, since I do have this show about iPhone filmmaking, smartphone filmmaking, I'll probably go ahead and get it. But otherwise, I probably wouldn't do it unless I was due. I usually get a new phone, every 2 or 3 years. I mean, recently I've been getting them more frequently, mainly because of the show I do. But ultimately, when anyone on my YouTube channel asks the comment, why don't you just get a DSLR instead? I always reply that has no relationship to what you're talking about here. You already have a phone, regardless of what kind of phone it is. And pretty much every smartphone today shoots pretty good video, 4K or otherwise. I mean, HD can look great on these phones. And the other thing is, I would never deter anyone from getting any traditional camera. As I said, I use mine in combination, in tandem, routinely. If you follow my channel, I shot a music video for an artist named Bart Van Bimmel, and I used a red camera, a red weapon. I shot with that on sticks, but then I wanted to do all kinds of moving gimbal shots, and I didn't have the time or the budget or really the desire to shoot with the red on a gimbal, and so I shot all the gimbal stuff with my iPhone 8 Plus. And if I didn't tell anyone, you wouldn't know the difference. It really looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I'll actually put a link to that in the show notes if you haven't seen it. My philosophy is, and really always has been, ever since I've been making films for the past 15, 20 years, use the best camera you can afford. So if iPhones and smartphones are the only thing you can afford, then great, use it. You've got an awesome tool today that you can carry around in your pocket. If you want to shoot on a DSLR and a mirrorless and just use your iPhone for your home movies, your family videos, that's great too. But this either or thing really makes no sense, because if you are using your smartphone to create content, you already have it. It wasn't an extra expense. Now, accessories can be an extra expense. That's true. And a lot of that stuff you don't really need, but that goes the same with DSLR and mirrorless. You don't need half the stuff people market to you. All you really need is the camera and a lens. All the matte boxes and follow focus and all that kind of stuff are great, and they make your camera look cool, and they do serve a purpose depending on what you're shooting. But you don't really need that. And that goes the same with a smartphone. The number one accessory you really need is just an ND filter. That way you'll get good motion blur. The number one filter I use on my phone is the Polar Pro, because it just slips on. It's so easy. I carry it with me everywhere I go in my backpack. Keeping it simple is something that I really do like about smartphones. So next time you hear someone say, why don't you just get a DSLR or a mirrorless camera instead of your smartphone, you just need to reply and say, hey, I already have a smartphone, and I may get a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, but you don't have to. And that's the beauty of it. The old saying, of course, is the best camera you have is the one you have with you. And if that's a DSLR, great. If that's a smartphone, awesome. In the end, they're all just tools to create your content, create your movie, create your video. One last thing I wanted to touch on regarding smartphones is the Filmic Pro Short Film Contest. And this is not sponsored by Filmic Pro. I just, of course, if you follow me, you know I use Filmic Pro and I love Filmic Pro. And I'm entering a film, I think, although I've been struggling with my script. The contest is over in about 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks from now, the end of September. And so I've got a really cool concept and a good idea. I just don't have it all fleshed out. The ending specifically. So later, if I get my film in and you see it and you don't like the ending, you'll know I was struggling with it. But I would definitely recommend to anyone to enter that contest. I won it last year and I couldn't believe the prizes. I didn't even know there was prizes, to be honest. I knew there was some prizes, but I didn't realize what kind of prizes there were. And again, that's not why I entered. That's not why I enter any contest. I love these contests like the Moment Contest or Filmic Pro or whatever it is, because a lot of filmmakers need a kick in the butt, truthfully, or at least a good reason to get out there and make a movie. Deadlines are really good for creative people. This business is full of a lot of talk, very little action, and I'm talking more about the movie side of things, whether that's a short film or a feature film, whatever. But in this case, a smartphone is required to make the movie. And although you can shoot, I think it's 70% of the film has to be shot on a smartphone. But I highly recommend entering. It was a great contest. You get your work out there to be seen by other people. And again, there's some really great prizes. And so I hope I get to see your short films in the contest. And hopefully I'll get mine in there in time. If you're a regular listener, you know I have a Filmic Pro course, and so definitely check that out. It's called The Complete Guide to Filmic Pro. And right now I am actually putting the finishing touches on an entire smartphone cinematography course. This is a more broad look at cinematography in general, but geared towards smartphones. This will be for beginners to intermediate, but probably more for beginners. This has been something requested on my YouTube channel for a long time, and I hope it will be a good complement to the Filmic Pro course actually. And I am planning to do some additional spin-off courses or different tracks, if you will, and so I'll be announcing more about that in the near future. Everything I've been talking about here you can find on my website, and that is ifilmmakers.tv or iphonographers.tv. They both go to the same place. Thanks for listening, guys. This is Blake Calhoun and another episode of Almost Professional, and I will look forward to talking to you in the next episode.